Hello, and welcome back to the final video on the Commodore Guff Precon. Today we're going to look at the lands and kind of do a general overview of my experiences with this deck and what my future plans for it are. But let's go ahead and just hop right into the land base. Alright, jumping directly in, we have, first up, the three temples: Temple of Triumph, Temple of Epiphany, and Temple of Enlightenment. One each for the three two-color combinations that are possible within our colors. When any of these enter the battlefield, they enter tapped, and you scry one, and they tap for one of either color represented. We have all three of those are present. We only have one of the conversion lands, as I like to call them, where you pay one colorless, you tap it to add one of each color. Only have the blue-white of those, which is the Sky Cloud Expanse. Now, we have two of the Snarls, and also one of the, well, it's the exact same thing, but it's not Snarl, which I find really interesting. There's Frostboil Snarl, which is blue-red. There's Fury Calm Snarl, which is red-white. And then there's randomly Port Town, which is white-blue. But they do the exact same thing. When they enter the battlefield, you may reveal a island or a mountain or a plains or an island from your hand. If you do, or if you don't, then these enter tapped. And if you do reveal, then they enter untapped. And so we have one from each of those color combinations here. Important to note, it does say mountain or a plains. There are some cards that are not basic lands that will qualify for that. For example, we have Prairie Stream here. You can see it's a non-basic land, but it says Plains Island. And so these can also be used to trigger the requisite for these lands here. And so, speaking of, that is the only land, the Prairie Storm here, that we have of its type. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control two or more basic lands. And that's Prairie Streams. Again, that's the blue-white is the only one of those that we have. We have three of these conversion lands, which tap for either colorless or you can pay one of the dual colors. So either you pay either a red or a white, and you get out either two red, a red and a white, or two white. And the same goes for these other combinations. So you pay blue or red, and you get out 2 mana in any combination of those colors. And so we have all three of those present in this deck. Then we get into some of our unique singleton lands here. We have Forge of Heroes, taps for colorless, or alternatively you can tap it to choose target commander that enter the battlefield this turn. You put a 1/1 counter on it if it's a creature, and a loyalty counter on it if it's a planeswalker. So that's very utilitarian, especially in Commander Guff. You can have him put a 1/1 loyalty counter on Commander Guff, making him a 6. We have Reliquary Tower. This is very important because it has the static ability. You have no maximum hand size. In Commander Guff, or Commodore Guff, I keep calling him Commander Guff. In Commodore Guff, his -3 will draw you tons of cards. Lots of cards will be drawn in this deck. So this is very important, very nice to have. Taps for a colorless, and just passively you have no maximum hand size. Command Tower, quintessential, gotta be in every single tricolor deck. Not as a rule, but it should be. And and most dual color decks, if not all. Monocolor decks, you might as well just put a swap, whatever basic land is in there. But there it is. Taps for 1 mana of any color we can produce here. Enters untapped. We have Exotic Orchard. Tap, add 1 mana of any color that a landed opponent controls could produce. I really only like running these in tricolor decks, which this is, which is good. So this is fine, in my opinion. We have Interplanar Beacon. Whenever you cast a Planeswalker spell, you gain 1 life. It has tap, add a colorless mana, and pay 1 and tap to add 2 mana of different colors. Spend this mana only to cast Planeswalker spells. So that can be good for getting around your color balance for casting Planeswalkers and giving you a little bit of life gain utility there. We have Karn's Bastion. Taps for a colorless, or you can pay 4 and tap it to proliferate. Mystic Monastery enters the battlefield tapped, but taps for blue or red or white. Mobilized District enters the battlefield tapped, or no, it doesn't. Enters the battlefield untapped, but it taps for a colorless, was what I was trying to say. And it also has pay 4, don't tap it, but pay 4. Mobilized District becomes a 3/3 citizen creature token with vigilance until end of turn. It is still a land. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature and planeswalker you control. So if you have 4 legendaries and or planeswalkers, then you can basically just pay 0 and this becomes a 3/3 creature until end of turn. And that can be done as an instant also, so you can use that to then block if you particularly wanted to. We also have Myriad Landscape here. Enters the battlefield tapped, but you can tap to add a colorless, and pay 2, tap, sacrifice Myriad Landscape, and you can search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped. And then we have our basic lands. So this Commodore Guff deck, the Precon, has 7 plains, 4 mountains, and 7 islands. So 7 plains, 7 islands, 4 mountains, and that is the complete land base of the deck. And we add in our non-planeswalkers, add back in our planeswalkers, and that concludes the Commodore Guff Precon deck list. When I was playing this deck, I really just had a lot of fun. This deck gives you so many options that your turns might take a while as you're trying to sort through and figure out what you want to do and in what orders and what you can do and how everything works. But it is really fun to be able to respond to a lot of different situations and be very flexible in what you do. And so turn to turn, you can do completely different things. Depending on which ability, do you use a +1? Do you use a 0? All kinds of things like that. Having the ability to protect your own board state while you're doing that is even better, and is so much. It's oftentimes underrated, because a lot of times you have to build those decks to focus. You know, you gotta have a win condition, and that win condition has to have something to do with the function of your deck. Otherwise, it's just kind of out there and random. But with the Commodore, it's designed to be out there and random with everything that it does. But it is a Planeswalker deck, which is specific enough. It's not just like a creature deck versus a Planeswalker deck. It's more like a legendary creature deck versus a normal creature deck. You know? Because a deck can specialize in legendary creatures. A deck that specializes in creatures will be a little bit kind of vague, But a deck that specializes in legendary creatures, you'll be able to do a whole bunch of things, but you'll have a lot of cards that buff legendary creatures. Legendary creatures you control get +2/+2, or legendary creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn, or whatever the place is. So you can do a lot of different things with Planeswalkers as your theme. And I feel like they definitely did a really good job putting this one together. I would very strongly, if you're looking at buying a Precon, I would recommend this one, or Mothman, or Caesar, of the ones that I've done videos on. But I think this one would be right up on top of that list. It's a lot of fun to play. It's not too difficult to play. And even if you lose, you're still having a good time trying to strategize your way through your turns. So yeah, definitely very happy with this deck. Had a lot of fun with it. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.